possession, or when he gets how he gets ahead or how he progresses, he chooses a more, I guess, evil, or he makes choices that are not very sincere in order to get what he wants. And what he wants, ultimately, what he wants is Daisy. So hopes and dreams are usually associated with positive things. The interesting thing about this novel is that you can hope for things in a bad way. You can have ideas about things and then, pursue them in a bad way. For example, my hope and dream is one day I can be a billionaire, right? Now I can actually try to work hard, invest my money, and make money, or I could choose a life of, stealing and selling illegal artwork, for example, and still make $1 billion. My dream is to make $1 billion, but how do I do that? Do I work hard, or do I choose a more negative route, or a route that's not necessarily sincere, which is what Gatsby does. Even though Gatsby has all of these things, he doesn't necessarily see himself as a bad person. In fact, many of the people in this book do not see themselves as bad people. They see themselves as noble people because they have money, at least those who have money in the book. Here are some of the themes from the book that you should concentrate on.
There are 4 major themes represented in The Great Gatsby. The first is class. This is demonstrated in a very unique way via geography. For example, East Egg represents the elite with old money, while West Egg represents the elite with new money. There's a distinction there. Also in geography, there's the Valley of Ashes. It represents the middle and lower classes. There's a strong characterization that captures the contrast between these classes. Another location comparison is the Midwest versus the East Coast. Now, the Midwest is depicted as a place of new money, but also one of strong ethics and new ideas, while the East Coast is that old money elitism, but it's at its very worst. There's an incident of dramatic irony that Nick, Daisy, and Tom moved from the Midwest to the East Coast for a better life. Another theme that pops up is superficiality versus truth. We can think of this as the facade versus reality. Gatsby's existence personifies superficiality. I mean, look at his pseudonym. He changed his name and fabricated his past. He distracts by throwing lavish parties with no true guests. At the core, Gatsby is motivated by his love for Daisy. He seeks power and money to be accepted among the wealthy and deserving of her love. By the time the story begins, he's so entrenched in the lifestyle, he's lost his way. Now, Nick discovers this early when Gatsby attempts to buy his friendship. The Buchanans and Jordan Baker live superficial lives, directionless existences characterized by luxury, wealth, power, and the never-ending pursuit for more. The American dream is another theme. Now, this story is set in the frivolous 1920s before anyone could imagine the crash and Great Depression. This focuses in on how individuals can recreate themselves and become successful no matter where they begin. Another theme, the chasing of the American dream. Now, that comes with harsh realities for some. Nick recognizes Gatsby's insecurities and lack of social skills. He's chasing a love he has idealized beyond realistic boundaries. The last one, degradation of society. Following the First World War, the population's post-war emotional relief, accessibility to consumer goods, and affluence led to unrestrained pursuit of wealth, pleasure, and material goods. The destructive nature of this pursuit is portrayed in the novel's characters. For example, Gatsby's simplistic view of life and that anything can be bought. Nick feels the pull of his Midwestern moral values, but is swayed by allure and the excitement of New York City. Gatsby portrayed in pleasure, influence, no relief, degradation.
What's interesting is this theme of degradation of society. I don't know if you know, but in the early 1900s, there was a pandemic, very similar to the idea of COVID going on, that took over the world. It was called the Spanish flu, I believe. But it took over the Americas. And after that pandemic was resolved, this became the age of the 1920s here in this novel, where people started to celebrate and I guess lose their morals. And the degradation of society suggests that people were spending money, were only interested in possessing things, the architecture, the art, everything was about elevating yourself, making yourself better than you are, spending money, rich, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of a reaction to the pandemic and the World War, just in terms of the depression of the world, how sad things were going on. What's interesting is, right now we're going through a lot of turmoil around the world. Environmentalism, the American state of politics, and obviously the pandemic, which we're going through right now. It's moving into year 2 almost, depending where you are in the world. So what will the future hold? What will people do once the pandemic is resolved? Once we can go back out in public, will there be a splurge? Will people start spending money again, celebrating? What kinds of music will come out of post-pandemic? What kinds of movies will come out? All of the culture, etc., is affected by the times that we're in worldwide. So this novel, The Great Gatsby, in terms of a pandemic and being representative of how people were basically partying in the 1920s, celebrating life, partying, cheating, drinking, da da da. One kind of parallels what's happening right now in our society. Okay, one more video about themes, just to get you to solidify the ideas of themes, and then we'll do a quick review.
Hi, welcome to Bella Student Tutors. In this video, we'll be covering the themes of The Great Gatsby. The 1920s was a time of great partying and dancing. Most people were all about fun and didn't really care how they spent their money. This leads to the most important thing before we get started about the themes of The Great Gatsby. People who had enough money to spend any way they wanted to didn't really care about how they spent their money, meaning they were very careless. One of the biggest themes in this book is the American dream. Most characters have their American dream, but to each one it means something different. For Gatsby, his American dream is Daisy. He wants to win Daisy over and take her away from Tom because she was the girl he could never have after they were separated. On the other hand, Myrtle, Tom's lover's dream was to have money and be like everybody else in the West Egg. She lives in the Valley of Ashes, which is the complete opposite of the West Egg, and shows all the poverty and all the struggles that normal people went through at the time. She really wants to be with Tom, and most importantly, wants to have money. So much so that, this is a spoiler alert, so if you haven't read the book or watched the movie, you should cover your ears or skip ahead. So this is a very important thing to her, so much so that she gets hit by the car because that's how much she wants to be with Tom, even though he's a married man. Another theme that you will come across in the book is telling the truth. Everybody in the book, except for Tom, supposedly is lying about something at some time in the book, especially Gatsby. He gets his story confused and mixed up with different people about where he came from and how he got all the things that he did. Even at the end of the book, it's still unclear who Gatsby really is, and he proves that he has lied about some things when he basically says that Daisy has fallen in love with a completely different man, because he's not like that at all. That's not the exact quote, but that's basically what he's saying near the end of the book. There are many more themes in the book besides just telling the truth and the American dream. I hope you can find more themes on your own and enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so that was a student presentation put together about the themes from the text. Okay, just before we go today, we'll take it nice and easy because it's our class. Just a reminder, this is your first class here today. I'm going to post today's lecture, so what I'm talking about here, in the news forum folder. You can always click on any of these, and I'm also going to post the link to the videos. So in case you want to refresh your memory about chapter 1, or if you want to look at some of the videos about themes, they'll all be listed here. I'll post them later today. Okay. So when we go back, I'm not going to do a Padlet today because there's no time, and I want you to actually get to the textbook. Some of you are still finishing Unit 2. You should be on to Unit 3. If you're already through Unit 3, that's fine. You can just keep working on your own pace. So U3A5, and then the next couple of weeks will be more reflective journal weeks. So these next 3 weeks, we'll look at these journals on chapter 3, 5, and 6, just to see where you are. That'll help you prepare for the essay whenever you get to it, for those of you who are still starting Unit 3, maybe this week or next week. Okay, let me come back to you. Okay, good. Are there any questions at this time? Or anything you want to discuss or consider in terms of The Great Gatsby? This is the next major unit we're going to explore together. Problems or questions?